we're going to go back to routing. So I want to talk about a really nice feature of Laravel. We can see here that we've got a root post/id. Let's switch this over so it actually pulls the correct post out of the database and outputs the information on the page. So let's go over to our post controller and let's go down to our show method just here. We know we're accepting in an ID. We can go ahead and dump that out just on the page so we can see. And if we go over to post/1, that just gives us the value 1. Now what we want to do is look this post up here and pass the actual post down to the view. Now we already know how to do that. So let's go ahead and create a variable called post and let's say post find ID. That's going to give us back that post and we can die dump on that just to make sure that's working. Let's also make sure we pull the model in here because we're working within a controller outside of the namespace. Let's give that a refresh and we get null because there are no posts with an ID of 1. Let's choose post 16. So I'm actually going to delete this one from the last part and let's go over to the browser and put 16 in there. So we get that post in. Now let's pass that down to our view. So instead of passing the ID down, which is pretty useless, let's pass that post down now. Okay, so if we come over to the show.blade.php file, what we can now do is on the post access, rather than use this as an array, we can access these as properties because we know that these are listed within these attributes now that we can really conveniently pluck out like this. So if we come over and give that a refresh, we get post 1. If we use ID of 17, we get post 2. So that's now dynamically pulling that out of the database. Let's go ahead and just adjust this to include maybe an H1 and a paragraph tag just down here. And let's also output the post body as well. And there we go. Great. So that is now pulling the correct information out for us. Now, what I want to talk to you about in this part, before we kind of fully pull this together at the end of the course, is root model binding. Now this code on its own is very, very short. Just to achieve what we've done, there's not a lot of code here, but we can actually reduce this down even further. Let's go over to our web roots and instead of accepting an ID in, let's accept a post in and see what happens. Now what's going to happen behind the scenes here is Laravel will work out that you have a post model and you're trying to grab a post that you want immediately to be available within your controller method. So what we can now do is we can switch this ID out for a type hinted post like so. Let's go ahead and die dump on that post and see what we get. So let's come over and sure enough it looks like it's looked it up, post 1 and post 2 like so. Now all we need to do is get rid of this die dump because we don't need that, and we've done that now without that additional line, and you can see that works in exactly the same way. So again, what Laravel is doing is it's finding this and it's seeing that you have a post model, it's looking it up by its ID and it's passing that down into here for you as long as you've type hinted it correctly. Now you can control what is used. At the moment it's implying that we're trying to access the post ID. What if we wanted to, just as a silly example, access the post by its title? In this case what we'd do is we'd use a colon here and title. Now with a post you'd probably have some kind of slug, so like a slugged version of your title. We're not covering that, but we're going to change this over to title just to demonstrate this. So now if I go ahead and refresh this, we get a 404 not found thrown because it can't find a post with a title of 16. But if we were to type in title 1, or in this case post 1, you can see that's looked up correctly. We can change that to post 2 and that would work in exactly the same way. So as well as this being really convenient, you can also change this around to pick the column that you want this to be looked up at. You can even just use ID there just to show that you're looking it up by the ID, just so it makes a little bit more sense. But that's root model binding, and it just means that you don't have to do the lookup yourself. You can let Laravel handle this behind the scenes.